Oh my god. Podcast number 4. We did it. Welcome back to the Facebook Ads Kingdom. We're here to tackle some of the biggest questions surrounding Facebook ads, e-com, business, entrepreneurship, products, and much more. And we also don't swear that much, so it's kind of kosher. I'm your host, Mordy Rap, and with me is my co-host and my really good, just genuinely amazing boss, Azriel Ratz, the king of e-com ads. What, do people do that? No, they don't do that anymore. They don't do that anymore.
It's a lost art.
It is. I'll tell you an interesting story. I don't know if we're going to include this or not, but it was cool. I was watching. I'm just one of these brands that I'm following that I'm trying to win them over. Is a brand called Mugsy. They're a jeans company, and I don't know why. Again, this has little to do with Facebook ads, but it fits into the advertising realm. Basically, they made this amazing ad featuring like some world-class bowler, and they made a really funny ad for their brand about maybe a year or two ago. And then the Cleveland Browns copied their ad, like straight up. Hired the same actor, shot in the same bowling alley, did the exact same list of shots, like tracking shots and whatever and framing. And that's kind of weird. And so I've been just following the marketing director. He's just like, what the hell, Cleveland Browns? Who does that? Who does a full rip? I understand taking inspiration from advertising. We all do it. Everyone in the advertising agency, right? I imagine every brand you've worked with. Okay, somebody finds a winner that works, whether it's a frame size or a look and a feel.
There are little entire businesses just about seeing inspiration of other companies, so that you could kind of take, like this is how they approach trying to sell jeans. They're not the only jeans company on earth, So you just like see what other companies have been running ads for long enough and say that's probably working for them. Let's also do that. And of course, it happens all the time. But to literally like run the exact same ad is a little below the belt.
It's below the belt. Also, like zero crossover industry-wise. Meaning, like, maybe that would even make a little more sense, Okay, one e-com company does something and it's got a huge hit. Like, okay, what's a great example of that one? The Dollar Shave Club, right? How many ripoffs have we seen of Dollar Shave Club?
So, yeah.
In, like, the marketing area.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting anecdote. I saw it last week. I thought it was something that would be fun to share. So everyone can go check that out if they want to follow that saga. It's not complete. Who knows if there's going to be a lawsuit? We don't know. But today's actual topic is going to be something that I don't know if I love yet, but I know Azriel does. And that is average order value, AOV, an important metric in the e-commerce space. What is so important about this little number?
So let's tell a story. I was at Shop Talk not so long ago, back in March, and I was sitting with the company, and we were discussing possibly running ads together, and I had him tell me his metrics, not my metrics. I knew my metrics. Tell me his metrics, and he's going through all his numbers, and I'm listening to them, and I'm like, these numbers don't sound so bad. Like that they would actively fire their ad agency, be actively looking for another ad agency. Like it didn't really make much sense. I'd like run this through by me again. So in the end, he basically explained to me that their average cost per sale, CPA, cost per acquisition, was about $28, and their AOV was about $60. And I said that even if you brought in another ad agency and they managed to figure out how to use all the special tactics and strategies and everything, maybe they can get the cost down from 28 to 22, maybe 20, maybe if they're like the greatest ad agency on earth, down to $18. But who cares about $7? Like you're not going to fire an ad agency managing hundreds of thousands of dollars in ads for you for $7. But if you could change how the customer acts on your site. So instead of buying one item for $60, they bought 2 or 3 items for $120 to $180. All of a sudden, you're not making $7, you're making $70, $100 extra. And it's possible that just by changing a few things on the website itself, on the ad itself, in the funnel experience for the user, you could be making way more money by not changing any of the ads, the targeting, anything that's set up in the ad account. So he told me that I was the first ad buyer to tell him that. And the reason why that was is because all the people that were sitting with him were not ad buyers. They were salespeople that didn't have much experience in this space. And they were like, well, we're going to for sure get your CPA down. We're for sure going to optimize your ads. We're for sure going to do all this. But that wasn't the solution that he needed in his business. In fact, I told him, don't fire your ad agency. $28 is a fine cost per sale. What you should be upset about is that they didn't think to figure out how to increase your AOV, because that is just how important this one metric is. It is make or break for revenue generating businesses versus businesses that go out of business. And
is that something that a media buyer should be like taking into account? Meaning, I understand AOV as a general metric, and that makes sense, but is that something that a client should expect? Someone like Azriel, fine, I get it. And there's a million media buyers out there, or ad managers, or whatever you want to call them, right? Is that something that should be expected from somebody who's on the ad buyer side?
I would expect that to be a line of questioning, simply because it's very easy to see a product that won't work. And if you don't at least ask that question, you're basically like burning money. So if an ad buyer doesn't think to ask you, like, does this product sell? Right? like the same way you would ask, like, are you trying to sell a product that's never sold before? You're going to approach trying to sell that product versus a proven product that has already gotten sales. Do you have a warm audience? Right? Like, these are questions, of course, you would expect them to ask because it's obvious. This, along with that, is, to me, a very obvious question that an ad buyer should be always thinking about. Can I actually make this ad funnel profitable? That's right. I think, a very big question. In hopefully one would be asking the company as a whole, can this actually be profitable? And very, very frequently, the AOV is the single driving factor on just how profitable the business is with ads.
It almost sounds like there's this sliding scale where if you're not here, like if your AOV isn't a certain size, there's actually probably no point in running ads at all, because it's just going to cost you too much money. What is that number?
There are very few exceptions to that rule. There are exceptions to that rule, but for most product-based companies, you have to imagine you're selling, I don't have many good items here. Okay, you're selling, don't sue me Lego, a Lego set, okay? Now this thing, it is almost, if it would have been built, don't you think I would have showed it, right? Like this is not as exciting as that. Work in progress. I only bought it in February. Okay, I'm getting there.
I believe in you.
So you're selling this Lego set, right? Now, along with selling the Lego set is creating a Lego set, right? You have to have one in stock to sell. So the cost of the material and all the manufacturing, but then shipping the product to your logistics center, storing it in your logistics center, shipping it from your logistics center, all of the products that are broken that need to be thrown in the garbage because they can't be sold. You know, that happens all the time. You make 100 dresses. And my assumption is at least 1 out of 100 are going in the garbage. They're just not high enough quality to sell. And then shipping it to the customer, and then there are ones that get lost in the mail. Then there are returns that can't be resold. Like you imagine, like companies that are selling like underwear. You can't resell underwear once it's been received by the customer. There is no return. It goes in the garbage. So you can't just restock it. So any one of these products have a cost affiliated with the product. Now, there are always exceptions. You imagine something that you make for $5 that sells for $5,000, you have super low margins. A digital product, it doesn't cost you anything after the first one to sell a digital ebook, right? I mean, obviously, if you have a publisher and you have all these people that are taking a cut off the top, yes, there are these small fees, but in relation to a physical product where it might cost you 50%, 30% of the product cost to just give the product to that user, to physically deliver that product. So once you are a physical product and you need to do all of the things I just said, it is going to cost you some amount of money to make the product. So typical numbers is about 30%. So let's just easy numbers. If the product is $100 average cart, so we're established $100 average cart, and it's 30% cost per good, that means you only have $70 to sell it, right? So
Yep.
one would imagine I can get a $7. I should be able to get a sale for $70. Right now on Facebook, obviously always changing, but it's somewhere between $30 and $35, the average cost per acquisition right now. So
Expensive.
it's only going up from here. It's it. It's like it's only going up. It's not going to magically get cheaper as competition comes. More and more businesses are going to spend money on Facebook, and until there's another better platform that can target as well with the same level of intent as users, they're going to keep charging. And
Right.
more and more money is going to go into Facebook. That's around the number. When I remember the good old days of like 12, I do remember ads that got sales for 12, but it's like I'm not holding my breath to see that again. But like $30 to $35 is pretty average for a product of that cost around $100. So now it costs you $30 to make it, and it costs about $30 to sell at $60, right? So if you're only
Yep.
making $60 per order, you have no money. Like there's no interest in selling. The only people making money is Facebook and your manufacturer. If you spend
Right.
$30 to make it and you spend
Correct.
$30 on ads, then
Like basic math, right?
so that $60 is too low, right? So the question is, at what point does it become worthwhile for you to actually spend the money? So even at $70, do you care about $10? Like, so to spend, you imagine you're spending $30 on ads. In theory, that's like a 2.5 times. I'm off here on numbers. You're making $100. 2 is 60. 3 is 90. So like a 3.3 times return on ad spend, so that you can make $10. Like no, that doesn't interest anyone, right?
Right.
So it probably has to be about $25 that you're actually profiting for it to be worth it for you. So you add 30 plus 30 plus 30, right, is $90. So under 90, you're already like cutting pretty close to what's
Right.
not even worth it to sell.
And yet, it's so funny. I still find and see these e-com companies who are actually advertising on Facebook with really like small AOVs. Like I'm talking like $30, $40 range. How is that even possible?
So again, if you aren't selling a physical product, then and you're selling a coaching package or an ebook,
No, but it's a physical product, Azriel.
So we'll get there. So if it's a non-physical product, you can get lower cost per acquisition. So you can get lower AOVs because you're not spending that $30 to make the item. Fine. Save that. Then there are some companies that have crazy virality. They already have millions of views on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and whatever. And so they could get an average cart under that $30 average cost because they understand user behavior. They're able to drive more clicks. Their conversion rate's higher. They have some, again, whether it's, I just call it virality, they have some sense of how to manipulate the system to get that lower cost per sale. But again, maybe they're going to get it to $15, right? We're not talking about like $3. We're talking about $10, $15. So if they're able to get
the good old days.
Right. So if they're able to get $10, $15, $20 cost per acquisition, they could have an average cart that's much lower. Then there's another type of business that they didn't figure out the virality side, but they're doing one of either two things. One, they are able to produce the product at such a low cost, like a Temu or a Shein. So the cost to make the product is like pennies on the dollar compared to a normal manufacturer. Either they're physically manufacturing it themselves, they have very small hands in Indonesia involved in the process.
Basically.
So now again, if you're Temu, please do not sue me for assuming that statement.
Listen, if SNL can make a complete parody ad, did you see it?
I don't think I did see it. Please share it with me after this video is over. So there are certain companies that have figured out how to make that cost so low for them that instead of eliminating the cost per acquisition, they've dropped the cost per product production so low that it's worth it for them. So if you're one of those businesses, right, like Alibaba, where you somehow are able to buy the very same product at Lululemon selling for $96 for 9 cents in a bubblegum wrapper, then like Sure, there is a way that you could spend more money in acquisition. That's one avenue. The second avenue is that you're in growth mode. Your investors basically said, we want to show you can get sales. We don't care what the cost is. Push in as much money as you can, even if it's at loss. And there are plenty of businesses like that are basically saying, like, we don't care if you're actually profitable or even making money, just as long as you're making sales, so we can turn around. Like, we could always raise the costs. We could always figure out that later. You usually can't, but that's what investors say. Then there is a way to basically say, like, I'm okay with not making any profit. I'm okay with actively losing money per customer, but at least I'm bringing in a customer that I can now resell to. That'll be worthwhile.
Sure.
So
okay. So there's like a long game play, or
Right.
or there's a cost of production. Those are the two ways you could basically bypass the Facebook is costing me so much money to acquire.
Or
this
virality, or that you have this force of virality that gets people to your website for just that much cheaper. You're able to cut your ad cost by a third, even a half. Then potentially you have that room to have a lower AOV.
Okay, so that makes sense, and that does make a lot of sense. But let's just assume the average company, most companies kind of fall into this middle package of if they don't have a strong virality, they may have like average, regular.
Yeah.
Their cost is normal or on par with anybody else. So
Yeah.
what is that ideal sweet spot in terms of an AOV that makes sense in order to be running Facebook ads?
So I would like to see an AOV minimally around $100, and maximally, if that's a word, a $250, maybe $300 average order value. Now the reason
Why is there
for
a
the
maximum?
higher,
Yeah.
the reason for the higher is because when you're trying to sell something that's just that much more expensive, users tend to be more hesitant in swiping their credit card. Like, I met this business coach a couple of years ago, and she wanted me to run Facebook ads for her. And she was just like, yeah, we have a landing page. We got, all the fun stuff. And we're sending traffic to the site, as you'd expect traffic to be sent to the site. And nothing's happening. Like, it's just dead. Nobody's buying. And I'm just sitting on a call with the person. I'm just like, can you explain to me what's happening? I'm sending you relevant traffic. I know, because we're retargeting. We're doing like all the same things we typically do, and nothing is getting any action. Can you tell me what you used to do? She's like, well, I used to sit on so many sales calls, and it's just, I hate sales calls, so I just decided for this launch, I'm eliminating sales calls. And I'm like, how much is your thing? She's like, $3,000. So I said, well, don't you think that this user, who maybe they know you, maybe they're like really interested in buying from you, but until yesterday, they needed to be on a phone call with you just to like be okay with swiping their credit card for $3,000? Has something dramatically changed between yesterday and today that all of a sudden they're going to be okay with swiping their credit card on a sales page with no sales call? And she's like, no, I just don't want to take sales calls anymore. So I was like, well, of course they're not going to buy, because you're asking them sight unseen to read a sales page and just swipe a credit card for $3,000. And you're not that known. Like, you might be kind of known, but you're not that well known that you're not Tony Robbins. People might swipe a credit card on Tony Robbins for $25,000, but you're not Tony Robbins. No offense to you, but you're just simply not Tony Robbins. And so we basically switched the sales page from going to a credit card, checkout, to a sales call. All of a sudden, what do you know? People were prepared to buy the product. So the problem was actually, she was trying to sell in a way the users weren't comfortable with. And that's what I see, is that when we have these very high average cart values, people are just hesitant and they're not interested in swiping. Again, there are exceptions, but I literally was just listening to a podcast not that long ago. I think it was the Shopify podcast, if I remember correctly. And they were talking to a company that just opened their first store simply because there are users that wanted to buy a product but didn't want to pay $200, $500, whatever the number was, before feeling the item. So they opened a store so that users could come in and just feel the furniture. How does this chair feel? Is it actually as comfy as they say on the website? Are all those influencers lying to me? And so they literally opened a store just for the sake of being able to feel the product. Because there are many users today that, even with a fantastic return policy and guarantee and all these things, they're just not going to swipe $2,000 on a product without getting to feel the item first.
And that makes sense. At the end of the day, what you're really saying on a psychological level is there actually is a price to trust ratio here.
Yeah.
Is that I could only spend so much before I say, well, now I'm not so sure I actually trust that what I'm buying right now is worth the value that I'm putting down.
For sure, yeah, 100%.
And that sweet spot sounds like so. There's a minimum level to play here, which is at $100, and then a maximum maybe around, you said 250.
250, 300. Again, but it's not always true.
Oh, you went up.
But also, like, I met a company, again, I would never have expected this. I'm not going to say their name because I don't know what information they do or do not want people to know about, but they're a bedding company, they sell beds. They sell physical beds, not the actual mattress, but the beds. And they're selling like $2,000 items, and they explained to me it was essentially all through Facebook acquisition. So it is happening. My assumption is they have to have some sort of, thing like a guarantee, or maybe like you're not even paying, like, get the item in your house, we're only going to charge your credit card in third. I don't know what the process is, but you have to imagine that they have to have some enormous amount of trust from the user that they're getting a high quality item when they're swiping that much money worth. And I assume also that they had to pay over the years to build their brand recognition. Because if I would have started a store right now, you would never have heard of me before today. It's very unlikely you're going to swipe your credit card for $2,000 from a site that doesn't already have, hundreds of Google reviews and people respond, reviews on Facebook and UGC and influencers talking about how great they are. Like, there is this level of, as you said, like, trust to price ratio that has to exist for a customer to be able to do that, because they just don't know they're actually going to get the item and they're actually going to like it. Like, I know for myself that in Israel, the e-commerce space needs a lot of work, but I wanted to buy some chairs for my dining room. And I literally went to no less than 15 physical stores just to sit in chairs, because you have to know, is this thing actually comfy? And you've seen a lot of pictures of couches, and you actually go and you feel the couch, like, this looks a lot better than it feels. This is not what I want in my life.
And with the chair, you want to know, like, is it going to be good for my spine?
Right.
Eating.
Like, I know the guys at True Classic Tees, and they mentioned multiple times on podcasts that they opened physical stores just because they wanted people to feel their shirts. Just to feel the shirts.
Great example, by the way. I actually want to lead us to the next question. So, if people do have what we'll call, let's say, smaller, lower ticket items, how can they bring lower ticket items into that, proper AOV that we need? Here we go. This is a pitch. And Classic Tees, by the way, is a great example of it, right?
For sure. So there's a few ways to approach it. Let's start with two. So the first obvious one is bundles. If you can get users,
you have to do a bundle thing. You have to
bundles.
I like that.
If you could get users to buy more than one item during a purchase transaction, just like I mentioned, like from the beginning, getting people to buy more than one item at a time, all of a sudden you're doubling your AOV right away. So I worked for years with a baby clothing brand, and essentially what we did was it's a terrible word, but we manipulated the user to browse the site rather than select a specific item. So the ad itself might only feature a single item for sale. But if you sent the user directly to that product page, they're likely only going to buy that one product. So the AOV on that one sale might be $17, right? But if instead of sending directly to that product page, you send them instead to a collection page, maybe you created specific for Facebook a series of items that go together that have good cost to profit ratio, that you have a lot of product in stock, whatever, or it's just a new arrivals or best sellers or something like that page. You can send traffic there. The person can now be browsing the collection page, finding what they want, and then instead of buying one item, they're buying 3, 4, 5 items. Now you went from a $17 average cart to a $50, $60, $70 average cart in the same purchase. So that's one way you should definitely be experimenting with. And I know for a fact that just this past weekend, True Classic Tees posted on their LinkedIn that they just revamped their entire bundles experience on their site, because just how important this is for them
Yeah.
buying
They're
one
all about
t-shirt.
bundles. They're all about bundles.
They're all about bundles because buying one t-shirt isn't going to make it worth it for them to sell that purchase. They're literally going to lose money on that sale. And you have to imagine, True Classic Tees, they do everything above and beyond. I have nothing bad to say. I've met the team a lot of times. I have nothing bad to say about them. They are spending money on every stage of the funnel. They have teams of people that are actors, right? You're paying the actors, the videographers, the editing staff, the ad buyers. They have a team of ad buyers. They bring in consultants to give consulting on how to fix the ads. Like every stage, they're paying people, right? So your $30 average cost per acquisition, they're spending way more than that when you count all the heads that are involved in each individual ad that's being shown to users.
Right.
Even if they are able to see a 22 on Facebook, they're likely paying way more than that in production costs and in rent of the studio space and in, the consulting for whoever they're bringing in. So because of that, they need to have a higher average cart value just to make it make sense. But then the second thing, which is another thing that True Classic Tees does well and is important, is that as opposed to, I will say, the buying behavior of a woman is she sees a dress, she goes, I'll give it a try. I've never heard of this brand. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what the quality is. I don't know. But I'll spend the money and see how it goes and I'll buy it. There is much less, to me, in my experience, trust or need to build that trust for a woman to buy a product. You just sort of try it out and see how it goes. And then there's also much flexibility between that woman that she'll end up buying it from a lot of stores. We see the same thing in like the skincare space where they'll have, don't test me on skincare products, I do not know nearly enough, but there's like a series of things you need for skincare and they buy specific products from different companies for each of those things.
Right.
You imagine you're not buying
what you're really saying is there's no brand loyalty with, let's say,
there's less brand loyalty. But what I've noticed for men is that when you have a deodorant you like, or you have a pair of boxers that you like, or an undershirt that you like, or a pair of shorts that you like, you buy 1,000 of them. Like, look at this guy. We mentioned him a few times already, Alex Hormozy. He literally wears the same pair of, he doesn't wear socks, the same pair of boxers, the same pair of shirt, the same undershirt, the same, even the same, nose thing he wears on his nose. He just goes out and buys 50 pairs of the exact same thing. I just saw this week Nick Gray, who's this big guy on Twitter right now. He posted that he just threw all of his socks out and bought, I don't know if it was 20 pairs of the exact same pair of socks. So he never has to think about buying socks because he just wants to always have matching socks. And this is a relatively typical behavior among men. They find a brand they like and they just buy the same thing from that store all the time. So if True Classic Tees is able to create that brand loyalty for that undershirt, even at just break-even costs, that will pay off in dividends when that user comes back to buy for the next decade.
But steering us back to our originals, I guess
the question that was the answer to your question. The answer to your question was the first one's bundles. And the second one is getting the user to come back a second time for a lower cost. It was the answer. I did, in fact, answer the question. That wasn't a tangent. That was the answer to the question, Mordy. So basically, if you as a business can figure out, listen, I know on the first time out, I'm not going to make that much profit, but I know that this person will buy from me 2, 3, 5, 8, 22 times. Right. And during that process, it'll only have to spend this much money for purchase 2 and that much money for purchase 3 and this month. And as you go further down the line, you don't have to pay as much for purchase 63 as you did for purchase 4. So that if you can't figure out how to get them to buy a lot in the first purchase, figure out how to get them to buy a second time much faster. And there is a lot of stuff you could do, whether that's on ads, which you for sure could do, retargeting purchasers on ads, but also emails, SMS, physical mail, right? Even reminder emails. What was the sentence you said?
I was going to say loyalty programs.
Loyalty programs, 100%. And so there's a lot of brands that, for example, they know that you buy. I just today I finished my bottle of chewable multivitamins.
Are we talking about Flintstones?
They are not Flintstones. It's a company I found on Amazon that I tried, and it's a bottle of 30 days. I actually bought 2 bottles before ever trying it, so it was 60 days. And I finished the bottle today. But because I bought on Amazon, they had no way to call me. They have no way to text me. They can't send me physical mail. They can't send me reminders, which is a thing that's a problem. Maybe we could discuss on another podcast. Your own store versus Amazon. Write that down.
Yep.
But if they would have had a way to follow up, maybe day 26, that they know, okay, you're about to run out. You know you're running out, right? You open that bottle. There's only 3 left in there. And if you order now, you'll have it in time to have it the next day. So I actually went and bought another product because I know it's going to be hard for me to get specifically that product from Amazon. Shipment's a little complicated here these days from Israel. But basically, to have a way to follow up, create a subscription, follow up through email or physical mail or text or phone calls or whatever that looks like, to get that user back in to buy that second, third, 8th, 22nd time.
Exactly. Without having to acquire them again via Facebook.
Or maybe you do, but just you're not going to spend $22. It'll only cost you $8 or $7 because they're a person that already bought. You got them exactly at the right time, which for sure you should do. Like if you know, let's give an example again, the baby clothing brand. If you know that a user just bought a product, 3 to 6 month clothing, right? And the next size up is
that the baby's exactly. Yes.
The baby's going to get. Hopefully, the baby's going to continue growing. There's a good opportunity for you to run an ad. Wait 22 days or whatever the day is that you know it takes for people to buy again. Look at your average customer behavior. See how long until they typically buy again. And then come in with an ad that's relevant to that user, specific to the sizing of the next stage up.
And then as a brand, you're really with them through the lifetime of that child in theory.
For sure. You know who does that well? My wife signed up right when my kid was born. She signed up for a thing called babylist.com.
Yes.
And you sign up, and on the first day, it tells you, this doesn't think your baby is in your tummy, and then it gets bigger, bigger. And now it's 9-year-olds. This is what you know about. And so, literally, they're still sending my wife emails 10 years after she signed up to the email newsletter.
Fantastic.
And it literally tells you how to deal with tantrums and how to deal with bedtime and how to deal with phone time. And so as your kid grows up, they're still sending you, and you know who owns that company? Johnson & Johnson. And so they know they got that woman signed up before the baby was even born, and they're selling baby diapers, they're selling baby food, they're selling baby powder, whatever, you name it, they can sell for the lifetime of that kid because they know the second that woman's pregnant, they're in their funnel and they can send emails forever. And you only set that email up once. You set that email up one time and it's scheduled for a decade, for 20 years. Never think about it again. You just set it up. That person is in your funnel forever.
Oh my God, this actually reminds me of a crazy thing. I don't remember which company it was, but it sounds like something Walmart would do. That they were retargeting people who bought pregnancy tests, 9 to 12 months later for baby clothing.
Yeah.
It's a little bit much. It's a little invasive, right? But
I don't know that I have the story exactly right, but from what I recall, I was reading. Actually, this is a newspaper article I read back when I was in high school. That was Target was giving out basically gift cards to a bunch of random people all across America to see if they could understand buyer behavior. And what they pinpointed was that there was a list of 12 items that if these 12 items were purchased, it means that it was a woman that was pregnant. Brilliant. And so what happened was they said, well, if we just can pinpoint these, 6 out of these 12 items are purchased by someone with a Target card, we know that they're pregnant. So what they did was they just automatically sent out brochures to all of the women, all the people in America that fit that description of having bought 6 of these 12 items. And a guy showed up, knocked at the manager's door in Target that day. Why the hell does Did you send a thing filled with baby items to my 16-year-old daughter?
Oopsie.
And they said, I don't know, got to call management, find out. And they called management and they found out that Target knew before him that his 16-year-old daughter was pregnant.
Good God. That's crazy.
So that's exactly what they did. And I assume that practice has gotten worse, not better, over the years, where the businesses do exactly that. Like even think about, you give someone a set of data points when you sign up to stuff. You give them your birthday, right? Now they have your birthday. That's leverageable data they could use to send you something for your birthday. There's no reason not to send someone on their birthday, hey, take 25% off. Here's a birthday coupon code, email to you. And so any data you give a company, they're probably going to leverage that to get you to buy a second time. And as a business, you should be leveraging that data to make sure that you sell to a business, a user, a second time, because that is going to be how you get that user to be valuable to you. Once they came, this is the type of product they buy. Sell them other similar products. Resell them when they finish that product. Sell them the next size up. All of these things you could do that you should 100% be doing in a series of ads, emails, SMSs, phone calls, whatever that looks like, so that that user generates your business more profit and you're able to continue spending money and making lots more.
That's always good. I thought of maybe like a third reason, maybe I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but just in terms of how to up that AOV number, and that's the free shipping number. There's always that number that's associated, right?
Yeah, so when a user comes to a site, so interestingly, I read this happened to be one of the first books I ever read, but the first book I ever read on business was called Priceless, The Myth of Fair Value. And I would say it's like a textbook on just examples of how to leverage human psychology for a business. That's basically what it is. And in it, they did a study where they tested charging more for an item and giving free shipping versus less for the item and pay the shipping. So just as an example, here's a $20 item, pay $10 shipping. Here's a $35 item, get free shipping. And for whatever reason, the user was happier off with the $35 free shipping because it meant they were getting the shipping for free. This is a tool that Amazon uses all day long. You buy as a Prime user, you pay your one-time $99 membership, and then you always get free shipping forever. And so now, like, I could buy this item or not. Oh, it's free shipping. Okay, just buy it. So for sure, leveraging, businesses use free shipping. Businesses use like pay this amount, and get this thing for free. Like I've seen a lot of stores like, at $30, get this item.
The day, right?
Whatever you could do to get that one more item in the cart to incentivize. Right. Even like as an example, I don't know if they still do it, but Gymshark.com, which anyone who hasn't experienced this, you should go experience the user experience on Gymshark.com. I have no affiliation with them, although if they want to run Facebook ads, we should for sure talk.
Take a listen.
Right here in minute 48 of our podcast. Their user experience is phenomenal, but when you add a product to cart, right within the cart, the whole site gets grayed out. 3 products show up and say, hey, people that bought that product also like this product. And it just pushes you now towards, why not buy that product too? And with one additional click, it'd be added to your cart. And then you click on that one and it refreshes and shows you 3 more. And it's almost like gamifies the shopping experience. So for sure, there are things to do in checkout. There are things to do in cart. There are things to do in the email that can incentivize the user to add just one more thing. Like I've seen where a person, like they click, add to cart. There's a pop-up on the page that says, hey, here's another item. Or directly below the cart, it says bundle this. Amazon does this also all the time. Like if you buy this item with 3 more, you get 10% off or something like that. People typically buy this in bundles. For sure, that is something that you should be experimenting with, along with the free shipping, as you mentioned, as just a way to get the user across the finish line. Just one more thing to get them to buy a little bit more and squeeze the juice out of each sale to increase your average cart by 10, 20, 30%.
I think it's great advice. I hope people out there listening are going to take this one to heart, because you really don't really have much of an option if you want to be running Facebook ads, which is still the only way to truly scale your e-com brand. So you gotta increase that AOV, man.
Absolutely.
Do you have a one-liner to end us off with? To all those brands out there.
To all those brands out there, if there is one thing that you should focus heavily on in the next meeting, it is how to get your customers to buy more from you in each purchase and more frequently in their calendar year. Have a good one.
Golden goose, my friend. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you all for joining the Facebook Ads Kingdom. God bless, and
see you next week.
also that.